Shall we start with my presentation? No. First of all, you can still leave. If you are looking for a romantic story about how beautiful it is to be a founder, you're not going to hear it. So I don't want to ruin your dreams, so you can leave. So it is 2014, October, around 3 a.m. I'm staring at the ceiling. My then 1-year-old daughter is in the next room, but that's not why I'm up. My heart is pounding, and I'm actually feeling that it will explode. I ask myself, is that how a heart attack actually feels? 7 months earlier, I had started to research for this idea of mine. The idea that if I take borderless people in the digital industry and introduce them to teams in the far-flung cities of the world and bring them together, then we can, on one hand, distribute knowledge, but also build a business out of it. So in March, I found courage. In April, I met my first co-founder. In July, I got my first yes from a believer, a Finnish angel investor. In September, we signed the term sheet for the angel round. It seems like things are going really well, right? Well, it's October. 2 of my co-founders have left their day job. We have rented our first office. I have approximately 10 euros on my account. And we haven't launched our MVP. We haven't closed our angel round. I know that no way I'm going to be able to pay the salaries for my co-founders who came in to build my vision. No way I'm going to pay for the office. Could I take another loan? But even I don't know if it will work. Nobody, besides the few believers who have said, yes, it's interesting, and signed the term sheet, I have no idea if this will work. 1 week later, we signed and closed the angel round. It was 1 week before I should have announced the bankruptcy. And if you think that after that came a fun new story with success, and that was the last 3 a.m. staring ceiling moment, no. It happened and has happened countless times. By today, I am the master of sleeping pills from all over the world. In all my travels, I collect them, I test them, and for the worst nights, I have Xanax in my drawer or in my suitcase. But just to be clear, entrepreneurship is hard, and that wasn't new for me. I started my first business when I was 16, invented something that saved lives and became pretty popular. And before Jobbatical, I actually launched National Geographic channels, Fox channels in 3 Baltic states, and I started to do that in the middle of the biggest financial crisis. So I know, and I knew what painful entrepreneurship means, but honestly, it's not comparable to the struggles of a founder who is building a business model that doesn't exist, or building a business that nobody knows how to even build. So, coming out from the negative, yes, there are great things. So, yes, by today we have moved people from 48 countries to 34 countries. That's cool. We have investors from 8 countries in the world, including UNESCO Ventures, who is considered one of the best VCs on planet Earth. We have probably got better media coverage than any early stage company in Estonia. Probably only the unicorns here can beat us there. And yes, in June we're going to launch our own visa with one of the governments. We're working closely with governments around the world, and we're going to have our own visa for our users. So that's all very exciting. And I'm making a bet here, I'm probably the only Estonian whom Vice President Al Gore calls by her first name. If somebody can challenge that, happy to take that challenge. But still, getting here or even constantly moving ahead, this is so painful. So if you're looking to start a startup, you have an idea, then really you have to be ready for pain. And I mean pain starting from the fact that being a CEO is lonely. Being a CEO and a founder of a startup is lonely on steroids. You are inventing things while you're moving ahead. You hear from your team, and what is funny, I think, is that a lot of the people who join your team, they are looking for that romance as well. They are looking to, bean bags and startup, and we're doing great things. But then you start hearing, why are we changing all the time? Why? I don't like change. And I like to quote my guru and my friend and a mentor, Patty McCord of Netflix, who said, but then don't join a startup, go and work in a corporation. Change is part of the DNA of a startup. That's what is exciting, but also painful, being part of a startup. But you, as a founder and a CEO, will be bearing all that heaviness. So really, when taking this path ahead, then think about the sleepless nights you're going to have, and you're going to have a lot of them. And the confusions and the fact that, I think one of the fun comments that I like to point out is your team saying the management doesn't know what they're doing. Most of the time, and I think that's very good to communicate with the teams, is that yes, we are figuring out while doing it, because nobody knows how this should be done. So think really, if you want to take this journey on. If you want, then I thought I can brag about how great we are, or I can continue whining how difficult it is, but instead I chose few things that I either think that have worked for me and for us, or I wish I would have known sooner. And hope when you will take that journey that those will help you as well. So first, start by doing things that don't scale. That's, I think, the biggest mistake that we did at the beginning of Jobbatical. We tried to create a platform that a lot of people can join, and just in our heads thought how they will be behaving on that platform, instead of looking at 1, 10, or 50 users and really following each and every step and doing everything manually and really trying to understand how this works, what doesn't work, and then building a tech around it. There's a really good podcast by Ray Doffman, Masters of Scale. Anybody listens to that? Okay, so there's episode 1 is with the founder of Airbnb talking about exactly that, and I really recommend to listen to that episode, and I wish I would have listened to that in 2014. Second thing, so as a founder, I'm a business-minded founder. I'm not a tech, I'm not a product person. So if you are like me, then what I would recommend is to really get a co-founder who is a product guy or a girl who works like a machine and is not afraid to make decisions. Just recently, one head of product told me the best definition that I have since then had for what is a product, who is a great product lead. The great product lead is somebody who can take my vision, where I believe the company is in 3 to 4 years, and translate into shorter chunks of time and what should be done within that time, or what could be done within that time. So really choose carefully who will be the product person in your founding team. And here I think this is where we have been really good at. Start with why. Is it the storytelling that you're telling to the world? Is it the storytelling that attracts people to your team? The biggest thing that you have to crack and is basically, why are you doing this? What is going to change? Why should anybody join your vision, your journey? In what difference will it make for them, for the world? And that story has to touch people. So people join Jobbatical because we are open. We are taking down borders. Every human that moves to a new country, every team that hires a new human takes down borders. And that is what drives people to join our journey. And that is the story also from all those different angles that media has really got from us. that has helped us to build a very strong storytelling. And when you're thinking about the why, I think the important thing, and what I see very often we're doing mistakes in, is that we're talking about what is here, but you should be bold and think, you should create the future. So in our world, taking down borders when nationalists seem to be conquering Europe, right? It doesn't, like, right now it's not happening. But I'm telling what's going to happen and why this is happening, why those reactions are happening here, because the future there is very different. So be bold about telling what is the future that you see. And that will very much build your story. That will attract the best people. That will attract investors. That will also attract media. So start with why. And again, if you haven't read, Simon Sinek has a really good book. I recommend to read that. I have heard startups saying that I'm going to do a raise a round for 6 months because we're almost there, and then I'm going to raise again. Don't do it. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Everything that you think will not happen most probably will happen. If you are raising a round for 6 months, then basically you sign the paper and start raising again. Because it takes approximately 6 months to raise a round. So minimum 18 months runway. So always think of the more pessimistic scenarios and always minimum 18 months. And focus, very important. So as an early stage company, we at one point discovered that we have like 40 people and 9 different products. Like, it's not going to work. So focus is something we're constantly telling ourselves, and we think that, we know it and it's so obvious, but yet it's so easy to get lured into great ideas that emerge. Let's try this as well. What if we try this angle? And then suddenly you understand that you're completely distracted. Your team is distracted and you don't know where you're going. So just do one thing, do it well, and from there you can build whatever you want. Become the master of saying no. And that's something that I already learned from my very first company, that it's the more you do, the more invites you get to speak, the more invites you get to have a coffee or have a tea or have a conversation or do all those things that people want to exchange ideas. Always, what I do today is that I always ask the question, how does this meeting or activity or speech help my company? How does this help my family? How does it help me? If it doesn't, no. Because the more you do, the more you will be spread thin. So the more you're being able to say no, the more you're able to focus. And a book that I definitely, like as a founder and as a CEO, it completely changed the way I think about hiring and team building. So Patty McCord was, Patty McCord was the head of talent for Netflix, and together with Reid Hastings, she built the culture deck. And her book is very eye-opening in terms of getting a healthy look of how to build a team and how to fix the team when things are not working. So I really recommend it, and I also recommend to reread it every month if possible. Start meditating. One thing that, again, we have heard a lot, honestly, with all my, with the stress levels, with the sleeping disorders, meditation has been one of the best things I have started to do. And you can take that 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes every day, and it will change the way that you, first of all, just makes you feel better. But secondly, what I think what it helps you to do is build the ability to take a step back instead of reacting all the time. So it really helps you to build this. Basically, you will have the ability to witness your own emotions and decide whether to react or not. So I believe this has helped me also as a leader. So I really recommend to try it out. There are different apps, Headspace, also the Muse, which I love, which basically is also with a gadget, which help you to create the habit. And last but definitely not least, especially being a founder and a parent, I think it's very easy to just lose yourself in the middle of it. I recommend to think about that every day. And for how I do that is I very often have my jogging, my running shoes, my sportswear, either in my travels or in my office, and I just go and have a run. Or I go and do something that makes me feel better as a human. Because if you're losing yourself, and again, like I haven't mastered that, I've been pretty bad at that, but the more you do it, the more you're better as a leader and as a CEO. And by the way, one thing regarding that is, I never thought that I would need a coach until my investor from US recommended, because that's what they do in their portfolio. They suggest good coaches to work with a CEO, and that was so helpful. If possible, I would recommend to have a coach, and if you want, I can recommend. I have my coach has been working with Tony Robbins for years, and she has a very good network. So if you want and are ready to do either in Estonia, I see that there's one coach actually sitting here who I can recommend, but also if you want from outside Estonia, I can recommend at least somebody who has a good network of CEO coaches. But it's really helpful to work on your own psychology. And just to end, then, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I was whining there a bit, but it is amazing to build something that changes lives. Like it is amazing to see teams hiring from a country that they maybe didn't even know of and actually have a team member that makes a difference there. Or people going and moving to another country and having a life-changing experience while contributing with their knowledge. It's amazing, but what I want to acknowledge here is that it has a cost. And you have to be ready for that cost. And with that, I just also want to thank, I want to thank this little girl here. And she understands English, so I can continue speaking English. You were 2 years old when I first took you. I mean, she has been tagging around next to me with my travels all over the world. But you were 2 years old when I first took you to Malaysia, and I just left you in a local daycare, and I said, bye, I'm off to meetings, and then she stayed there for the next 3 months. So I started to count the countries and the babysitters and the schools that you have gone out to, because I lost the count. Thank you for being such a strong partner to me and teaching me how it is possible to live a global life. She has friends from Singapore to Australia to America and is able to adapt in each and every location without any problem. And I think what she also reminds me is that exactly that is why what we are building is important. Every time we take down a border, every time she will have a better contact with her friends wherever they are from. So I thank you, Maya, and I wish you good luck on your own journeys. And if you want to, I can't promise that I will have coffee with each and every one of you. Like I said, I'm saying no to quite many things. But if you want to reach out, then happy to at least give you a shoulder. So, thank you.
Thank you, Karoli. Wow, that was quite a story. Questions? Here we go. Wait for the microphone, please.
Thank you for a very great story. There's a saying that ignorance is a bliss. All the famous startups who have had podcasts and I've spoken with, they all say the kind of the same thing what you are telling, that if I had known that it's so freaking hard, I would never have started. So how is it, like you gave a speech about be aware it's damn hard? Maybe you shouldn't have because otherwise people will be afraid of doing it?
No, but that's the question that I think we have some illusions around us building a company. I just want to, and I think not everyone should be a startup founder, or not everyone should be an entrepreneur. I think what is great today is that you can join great companies and act as an entrepreneur inside those companies. If you ask me, I would have started still. Like, you know, the sleeping pills and all that, like, it's part of the journey, but I would do it any day, every day. I think it's good also to, if we have done mistakes, to talk about them because others can learn from it. But what I say, ignorance is bliss. I have this, so when people ask me, what is the one recommendation for a new founder or entrepreneur, then I like to say that building a vision is like rock climbing. The main thing is that you keep on climbing, but don't look down because you get dizzy, and then you fall. So that's what I'm trying to do every day.
Thank you. We have time for one more question.
So how do you split your day or week in terms of how much time to spend on education, on, I don't know, HR tasks, or whatever you split, whatever system you use, like per week?
But it all depends where I am, because I travel. So if I would be in one location, that's one thing. I had from September to December 45 flights. So if I'm traveling, then the schedule is very different. But if you ask me where does the time go, mostly, what are you mostly solving? I think it's people, revenue, and investors. So I think for me, like those three are taking most of my time.
I have one more question to you, Karoli, if you allow. There's this hype in startup world, and I think it's a hype, and I think it's dangerous, that you should work like 100 hours a week, and you've explained quite well what this means for your health, for your personal well-being. What do you say to these people who are still in a kind of mode of, you know, you have to work 100 hours a week to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a conversation, to be honest, I have had a lot, or initially had a lot with my coach, because I also had this fear that, you know, I can't work 100 hours a week because I have a family, and it's not healthy. And then the more I research about it, the more conversations I had around it, it's not actually true. This is so first of all, we have very clearly very effective hours. Sleep, there's nothing more important for making decisions. I mean, what is the number one thing that you are doing as a CEO is your ability to make decisions. If you are sleep deprived, if you are stressed out, you cannot make decisions. So I think there's so much myth that has been put into this, and I think, and that's why, I mean, I'm happy to be here with my daughter to show that world can be different as well.
So it's more about work smarter, not harder.
Work smarter, yes, than harder.
Okay. Thank you. Please give a big applause to Karoli. Thank you, Karoli.